Welcome to OBM Unscripted, where the systems get sassy, tech tantrums are tamed, and real talk rules the mic.
We're your hosts. I'm Christy Beard, your go-to strategist and business coach.
I'm Muneeba Brooks, your operations and tech whisperer.
And I'm Layna, the guru of systems and workflow magic.
We're all accredited OBMs, and we have seen it all.
If you've ever wanted to scream into a client brief, cry over Zapier, or Google, "Can I invoice for emotional labor?" you're in the right place.
This is your space for behind-the-scenes stories, hot takes, and community vibes for OBMs, VAs, and online service bosses.
Real talk, real answers.
Unfiltered,
Unscripted.
Welcome back, everyone, to OBM Unscripted. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our discussion on what the heck does an OBM do? So I wanted to kind of pick up from where we left off last time. Layna, so if a business owner says, well, I already have an assistant, what do I need an OBM for? What's your quick response?
Are you still telling the assistant what to do? Because an OBM will manage that assistant and give those tasks to that assistant to free up the time for the business owner. The other thing I like to tell them, who do you strategize with? And that becomes a question within itself. They're just like, my husband, my friend, my whatever. And that's another thing an OBM does. They help you strategize your business, and then they put together what it's going to make happen. And they take care of those high dollar, high volume projects, and then they hand it off.
Any thoughts? Anything you want to add on?
Yeah, I would say the approach is different. The OBM is going to be more proactive. They plan ahead, and the VA is more reactive, where they do what's asked of them. Also, the skill set is different. So for the OBM, they're more management system and leadership, and the VA would probably fall more under execution, organization, and communication. And I think those are key distinctions to be aware of when you're looking to hire, or if you're actually looking to go from VA to OBM. It isn't just a matter of changing your title. You have to have those leadership and management skills to make that switch.
I think that's a good segue into my next question. Where is the line between a VA stepping up and becoming an OBM? Because I notice a trend that I've seen in the last few months. And so on LinkedIn, I've always referenced back to LinkedIn because that's where most of my networking is done. But I've noticed a shift that there are an increasing amount of VAs who are saying, I'm transitioning and becoming an OBM. But I don't necessarily see the infrastructure for an OBM setup. I don't see services they're offering. I don't necessarily see spelling out of the skill set shift from VA to OBM. So before I get into my views on the topic, for both of you, and any one of you can jump in first, where is that line where a VA is now beyond a VA and they're actually an OBM?
So I would say it would have you would have to look at the skill set and what it is that they're doing. It isn't just a matter of learning how to do more tasks and then adding to the title of now I'm an OBM. You have to develop the soft skills necessary to become an OBM. And that would be the management skills, the leadership skills, the planning ahead skills, the strategic skills, all of which are learned. You can learn them, but it is a necessary shift to make before you can just say, okay, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, so now I'm going to just change my title.
Yeah, I have a hot take on that. Somewhere along the line, VAs have gotten a glimpse of an OBM school or 3 or 4 that have said, oh, if you're VA, you can now be an OBM. You just need to change your title. And I think what they're missing is that if you're already managing the business, then yes, you have the title. You can change from VA to OBM. I don't care what you call me, as long as I'm getting what I need to get done. But having that OBM or operations title in my niche does give me a little bit more money because it's expected. So the expectation is different. And with OBM being so new and everybody trying to explain it to business owners and why they need it, if they're missing that core element of leadership and strategy, they're never going to succeed as an OBM.
Yeah, I'd like to also add the focus is different too. So with OBMs, they're focused on growth, systems, scalability, that sort of thing. And VAs are task completion and admin support. So they may execute the task, but it's assigned by others, whereas the OBM has ownership and they own the projects, they manage the teams, and they own the outcome. And that's vast difference between an OBM and a VA.
And I think that's probably where the decision of accreditation, certification kind of ties into that. I just had a client that I've actually been working with this client for the last few weeks now. And during our discovery call, the client mentioned, accreditation that I had listed on my website and said, tell me about that. What does that mean? And then when I explained, the process of what was required in the program and how they, benchmark everything and when they issue those credentials, the client thought that was actually very helpful because apparently this client had been circling the idea of getting an OBM for some time now. And the way their brain works is they're very analytical. They want to dig in and look at every single aspect and make sure that they consider all factors and, what have you, and make the right decision at the end. So they were very curious about that badge that they saw on my profile on LinkedIn and on my website. And to them, that mattered a lot. Because they're like, yeah, I noticed a lot of people are out there saying OBMs, but I don't really know what that means. So that in itself, I think, speaks to how muddy the title has become out in the digital world. And people are adopting the moniker of OBM. And Layna, exactly as you said, I think they're kind of falling for a misunderstanding of the marketing that's now out there that you can become a six-figure earner by working 10 hours a week and just become an OBM. So they're seeing these sensationalized titles and then deciding, I'm going to call myself an OBM and I'm going to charge all these rates and I'm going to make all this money. But they fail to realize that there is a very apparent skill gap. And in your first discovery call for clients who have done their homework, it'll become very, very apparent that there is a skill gap there. And it's how you present yourself, how you talk about strategy, how you have your public facing profiles, your website, your LinkedIn, your social media. Of course, we're all trying to attract a different type of client, but I think all of that really plays into what an OBM truly is and what an OBM truly can offer.
You made a good point. Clients can tell the difference based on the discovery call and the conversation, and because your experience in what they're looking for will come out in the discovery call or at some point when you're talking with them and looking at what it is that they need or want from you. They're listening for things that they themselves know what needs to be done, but either doesn't want to do it or isn't 100% sure how to execute. Can this person really help me get from A to B? It will come out at some point. So you can make your packages and your pricing and feel really good about it. But if you don't actually have the experience to back it up, it will probably make you take a couple steps back after the first few discovery calls that you have.
Neva, I also wanted to add in my particular niche, certifications are a big deal. I've been certified through Keller Williams, through the licensing board of the state. I've been through high dollar courses that give me a certification where, just like a doctor, I can put little letters behind my name if I wanted to. I don't necessarily advertise those outside my niche because people don't know what they are. But within my niche, when they go to my LinkedIn page, they can say, I'm certified as a perfect assistant. I am certified as a perfect operations. And those are specific to real estate. I am also certified OBMs from 2 different courses. I am certified in digital marketing for real estate agents. I am certified in real estate agent business building. Those are all huge things that when somebody looks at me, to do something for them. They're like, look, she's taken the time and spent the barrier to entry to go get these certifications. So she definitely has the skill set that I need, and that builds me even pre-discovery call. So that alone doesn't get me gigs, but it does give me more credibility for those gigs.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Christy.
I was just gonna say I'm giggling that you're calling them gigs, but that's hilarious.
Thank
I want to
you.
play some music or something. Sorry.
I think so. Christy, what's your take on that? Because we know that in the real estate space, credentials and certifications really do matter. What do you think about that?
You know, I'm gonna say my credentials came from the Hard Knocks, the School of Hard Knocks, and I have worked in all sorts of different businesses, and I have gained experience and knowledge in each one of those. And from that, it has built my background and my experience into what I do now. So I think the benefit of that is that I have a myriad of different talents, so to speak, where I can help people. Brick and mortar, restaurants, insurance, factories. I mean, I've worked in a lot. And I also have certifications. I've went through online courses for OBMs, and so I have that. I don't advertise it on my website. I do think it is necessary to continue to educate yourself. So even though I've been doing this for a very long time, when I made the switch to the online space versus the in-person space, there is differences and execution is different. Deliverables are different. And so there was a learning curve. So I think it's important to continue to learn, especially if you want to build your craft and you still want to do what you do and you want to help people. You're always learning and evolving. And I don't necessarily think that you have to have letters behind your name to be experienced, but I think in a lot of cases, especially with Layna, it is necessary. It does build your credibility because that is something within your niche that's important and people are looking for that. And maybe not so much with mine, since I just basically help people like build the foundation of their business so that they can do what they do better.
Layna, did you want to hop in here?
I wanted to kind of give a real world example. I've done several discovery calls, and there was one lady that I really, really wanted to work with, to the point where I was doing in person interviews because I wanted to work with her so badly. We aligned on so many things, just from the way her marketing was laid out to the way she approaches her business in her social media. So I offered, because she had so many people vying to work with her, I offered to do a project for her, and nobody else did. So the project is daunting, it's long, it's a pain in the butt, but it's me showing the skill set to her, and I'm not doing it for free, but I am doing it for a heavily discounted rate to show her what I can do. So if she does decide to pick me, which I believe she will, a higher rate than reinstates for the next project, and she knows that it's taken care of, because she has had, let's see, this is our third week into the project. I'm almost done out of a 5-week sprint, and she has had very little hand holding. I may have had 2 or 3 questions, so it's making her a little nervous, but I'm always communicating with her every day about, here's what I did today, here's where I stopped, here are the next steps. So she's been very grateful to see that, because she knows I'm working on it, because this is still so new to her, this whole situation. But, we are actually doing an in-person meeting today, which is great because she's local, and it's going to give me the chance to showcase my skills and myself in front of her. Again, here we are halfway through the project. What do you think? So I'm excited about that.
I think that actually brings up a good point. Coming back to, what does an OBM actually do? I think that kind of encapsulates the essence of what OBMs do. We do a lot. And sometimes it's not necessarily staying, you know, strict on a particular structure or a particular tool or a particular method. We make concessions. We work with our clients. We, work with our rates. They're kind of adaptable here and there. We pivot and change and align as we need to, and we show that flexibility. And I think that in the end really is the essence of what we do as OBMs.
Yeah, I would even say that you're not, for the project that you're talking about, you're not just organizing her business, you're engineering her growth. And that is a big difference between a VA and an OBM.
And part of that story, um, early on when we were talking about the project, I said the words data integrity, and her face lit up like, oh my God, she speaks my language, right? And I told her, for this project, data integrity is super important. And she's just like, oh, you could see the light bulbs going like, okay, I haven't even said that. And she's already getting it. And I think that just led to the credibility that I was already bringing to the table, because now I said language that she understood.
And that's what I touched on earlier. That's what they listen for. They listen for keywords that they know that they need, and they want to know that you know that, and that they're not going to have to educate you on what they need and hold your hand in the projects. Yeah, that's exactly. I love that.
And when you look at the clients that we actually target, of course, everybody has their niche, but generally there's a similar persona amongst each of those clients where they are analytical. They're, looking for certain things. They have a deep understanding of their business. They are successful in their own right. But yes, they are looking for options to streamline, optimize, and do what they have to do. But they're pretty savvy already. So I think when a VA is deciding that they're going to rebrand themselves as an OBM, to just be aware that these clients are going to pick out very quickly whether they feel you fit into their business or not. So make sure that you have done your research. There's a lot of videos out there. A lot of the accreditation programs and schools have, YouTube channels. Go in, tap into them. Really understand what an OBM is before you actually get into the field. I think clients, on the other hand, will instinctively pick that up, whether, you are exactly what they're looking for. And with the marketing that you're targeting, they are a bit of a sophisticated client that is expecting a higher output of work when they're looking for OBMs.
Yeah, I think it's important too to mention that this is not a conversation to say that VAs are not necessary and that they're not able to do what they do. This is just a conversation on the differences between and how to tell what you need and what you might need to ask when you're looking to either bring on a VA or an OBM, or if you are a VA thinking about moving to becoming an OBM. These are things that you need to consider and also know.
Yeah, definitely two different tools for
Yeah.
two different purposes, I think.
Yes.
So what is the simplest, most powerful way that you can prove ROI to a client who thinks OBMs are too expensive?
That's a hard one, because I would say it really depends on the business and what it is that they're looking for. So I don't know. Without knowing that, I would say that's going to be a hard one. But in general, you could find out what it is that they're wanting and then give examples of when you've done the same thing for a client. That might be a good starting point, but that's hard for me to answer without any specifics.
I disagree with Christy completely. Only because I do it like with this current client that I'm working with. I offered a project at a discounted rate to prove my ROI. And I only do that for clients that I really, really want to work with. So in the hindsight, you could also do an internship to prove your ROI to somebody. You could also offer, because we are so flexible, let me just do a quick sprint for you, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. let me just take that little project off your hands. And you immediately start showing your ROI within that small project window. And it gives them options. They get to test drive you for free to see if they want to keep working with you. And you get to test drive them to see if they're going to be a tyrant. And you're going to be hand holding the business owner more than you're going to be hand holding the team.
So what was the question again? I'm not sure how that relates to ROI as far as like showing the client ROI before you work with them. Was that the question?
What's the simplest, most powerful way to prove ROI to a client who thinks OBMs are too expensive?
Okay. I'm not sure that offering to do a discount would qualify. I understand what you're saying because I've done that too. When I made the switch, I even did projects for free to show people, but that was more of marketing, not necessarily return on their investment. But okay, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, I'm awake. I'm awake.
I saw a commercial last night and it has still stuck with me. It's a Progressive Insurance commercial, so let me give them credit. But Flo is talking to this business owner about insurance. And Flo says, now you can take a vacation. And the business owner looks at her all crazy and says, a vacation? She goes, yeah. When you go somewhere to relax. She goes, "Oh." The business owner says, you mean when I sit down to do payroll? Flo's like, no, you go somewhere, you start taking pictures, you enjoy the people around you. She's like, team meetings. I mean, it was just like this slew of stuff. And I was like, oh my God, Flo is talking about an OBM.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
I think that is key because people purchase outcomes, they don't purchase products. So show them the end state that you can now take this vacation. Sometimes they don't understand that because it's so far out of their, list of priorities because they're so overwhelmed with things going on. When you're showing them that end state, it's going to take them a little while to believe you, but that rings very true. And I think for me, proving ROI to a client, again, based on the client that I target and the clients that I want to work with, very analytical. I show them the numbers. I do case studies. For example, launched a particular software, did this, 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 this. It freed up time by this much. Now people can focus on doing this, what have you, and give them little snippets of it. That last client that I mentioned earlier, that I had the discovery call with, and I was talking about credentials and accreditations and all of that. That client was like, do you have any case studies? And that's exactly what they asked. And I said, yes, I do. And I presented them to the client, and the client was like, sold, got it, signed the contract right there. And that was what actually tipped the scales, that they wanted to see that I could do what I said I could do, that it's not just all a marketing gimmick, that I'm not just, slapping a title on my name and trying to charge these exorbitant rates. It really was a matter of justifying my value and showing that I actually can execute on the promises that I'm making. And so far, we've done 3 phases of the scoped work in the last few weeks, and the client is super excited, super happy. And, we're going to keep going through and doing what we do. But I think that when you speak the client's language, it makes a huge difference on convincing them the ROI on an OBM versus a VA. So to close out our episode, I want to ask you both, what misconceptions about OBMs make you want to scream into the void?
So many to choose from.
I would think, okay, so the first one that pops into my mind is that we're just there for like data entry support and not the strategic aspect of it. It's not just about implementation. Yes, we can do all of those things, but we are here to help the CEO get from point A to point B, not to do the task in all the stages. We help their team to do those things. So we take the managing of the team off their plate to make sure that things get done.
Yeah, that's a big one. I'm not a tasker. I am a strategic thinker. Sometimes the word integrator tells a real estate agent that, well, they're a tasker. No, I'm so much more than a tasker. If you want this software to talk to that software, there's a whole framework we need to be talking about and who does what in that framework. So that makes me want to scream. And the marketing for some of the online schools just really make me want to scream too. They talk about how easy it is when it's really not. It takes hand holding a business and developing leadership skills, developing that strategic thinking, understanding how a business runs without having that MBA, um, and how you're going to scale that client. So anybody who says, "Oh, she's just a VA," in my niche, I don't necessarily get upset about it, but I do correct. I'm so much more than that. Yes, but I'm so much more than that. And then I can go and explain that. What about you, Muneeba?
I think it's kind of a take on both of yours. What drives me crazy is when people think that OBMs are just task takers at a higher level. So I see that they realize that you're not checking their emails and you're not, booking their appointments, but they kind of get to a higher level and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I do want a system, but I want you to do this in the system and I want you to do that in the system and I want you to," and that's completely not. I mean, some OBMs may want to, operate that way, but generally, a lot of the OBMs that I speak with are coming in at the higher level and making suggestions and making recommendations and pushing back on ideas that, in our experience and the frameworks that we've previously implemented, we know it's not going to work. So when you start interacting with a business owner that was like, "But I told you to put this tool in, why don't you just do your thing and put the tool in?" Well, now we're at an impasse because you clearly don't understand the role of what an OBM is offering. Is we're telling you that this is not an appropriate tool because of X, Y, and Z. And these alternatives would be more applicable because of these reasons over here. And when we implement it, it could streamline your work by this, this, and this. And we're very specific, very strategic, very methodical, even though that may not be your way of thinking, but generally that's what we're bringing to the table is more than just execution.
I have one more. It's the delegation. If you're not ready to delegate, it's going to be a hard CEO shift for you because you have to be able to delegate and allow this OBM to do what we do. But I've had people that they say they're ready and they still want to hold my hand, and it's like, no, let me do what I do, and just, I promise you it will be much better when I'm done and you will love it, but let me do what I do. Delegation would definitely be another thing that would probably make me want to scream.
Yeah, and business owners, they don't really trust you with their business. So you have to earn that trust as you're going, and your skill set is what earns you the trust. And you do ask them to take a certain amount of trust in you when they first start working with you. So any little thing you can break that trust without you even knowing it. That's why I like to set very steady expectations. Here's what you're going to get from me. And if you need something, you need to ask for it because I'm not a mind reader. But I'm also, like Christy said, I'm afraid to push back on these real estate agents. I have worked with some heavy hitting teams and agents. So when they say, "I want to do this," I'll say, "Based on my experience, here's why what you're trying to do won't work because here we go." Or I like to use their words against them when they get, shiny object syndrome. And I bring them back. "Well, in our discussion, you said you wanted this. So why are we shifting now?" I'll use their direct quote. "This is the most important thing," or whatever it is. And then they're like, "You're right." You have to have that leadership ability to not be afraid to push back. Yes, I want them to like me. Yes, I want to do a good job, but the business is my client, not necessarily the agent is my client.
I think one example of evolving with clients, especially with delegation, is one of the clients that I'm thinking of. They have their ideas and they tell me what they want, and they still want me to check everything with them before it goes live. And I have moved into quarterly planning for this client, and now instead of every week, okay, is this email okay? Can I, send this and schedule? We've moved out of that into I pull everything together 12 weeks at a time. We look at it all together at the same time. It's approved. It's, yes, this is what I want. And then I don't have to go back every week and say, okay, I need you to approve this, because they get to a point to where their approval doesn't happen in time, and then you miss and you get behind. And so it's being able to guide them and lead them and hold their hand in the way that we should go to get them from point A to point B. And sometimes they are the problem. And sometimes you just have to like redirect them and help them to see that I've got this. You don't need to worry about it anymore. This is now on my plate. You go get your headspace and go do what you do better, and let me deal with this.
Thank you both for this interesting conversation. Lots of good points covered. Thank you to everyone listening. We really appreciate you tuning in each week to go through these topics with us. Please remember to subscribe to whatever channel you are on, whether you're on YouTube, listening through Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or any other podcast platform. Please make sure you're subscribing. That definitely helps us continue doing what we do. Thank you again. Bye.